Welcome to the video. Today we're going to take a look around the all-new Toyota Yaris, now in its 4th generation.
And thanks to the Crossings Toyota Nate who gave us a spin in the all-new Yaris.
If this is your first time here, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss our test drives of the latest new cars on the market. Now let's find out what this all-new Toyota Yaris is like as it goes up against rivals like the Ford Fiesta, Volkswagen Polo and Renault Clio. To start off with the exterior, and from the front end it no doubt looks more aggressive than the outgoing Yaris, and dare we say even a little bit sporty. This is not something you usually associate with Toyota, but here we are. The colour of this one is ash grey, and the front of the car has been redesigned. In fact, the whole car is completely new from the ground up. There is a new grille and headlights along with front fogs. From the side, and the new Yaris is lower and wider than the previous model. It's also shorter,
but the gap between the wheels is longer.
This results in more interior space, which we will look at in a moment. From the side, the Yaris has noticeable creases that begin at the front and carry on along the driver's door. There's another crease going along the rear door. The design of this new Yaris is very likeable. The alloys on this spec are 15-inch on Continental tyres. Moving to the rear, you do get a real sense of how much lower and wider this new model is. Up close, you have the Yaris badging and the Luna trim badge below it, with a black plastic trim connecting the two rear lights. I think from a styling point of view, Toyota have done very well here and tried to make their small car offer something a little bit different to the rest of those in the market. I think it's clear that they are targeting a younger audience with this slightly sporty design. As you move to the interior, and the boot is 286 litres. This is not class leading in terms of boot space, but it's still not bad. There's no 12-volt socket or shopping bag hooks back here, but there is a spare wheel underneath the boot floor, and this is not something to take for granted with modern cars. You also get a breakdown kit, not that you'll ever need it because, well, it's a Toyota. Moving to the rear, and this is where that extra 50mm between the front and rear wheels makes all the difference. At 6'4", I can still sit behind my driving position, which is impressive, and in this segment of car is not always a given. Headroom is reasonable. The sloping roofline does eat up a little bit of headroom, but again, for a Super Mini, the space back here is more than adequate. In this spec you do get manual rear windows, and in 2020 this is very rare on a new car. There are no USB ports or air vents in this spec, but there is a pocket in the rear door that could hold something like a water bottle. Moving to where you'll likely spend most of your time in the new Yaris is the front, and the materials on the main dash are soft to touch. And as you would expect from Toyota, everything feels built to last. The dials in this Luna trim are physical, but the higher spec model will be available with full digital dials. The LCD screen between the two dials displays all the driving data, controlled with the buttons on the steering wheel. The steering wheel itself is leather wrapped, and we'll talk about how the new Yaris drives in a moment. The touchscreen is the same one found across the Toyota range, meaning it's familiar, easy to use, and comes with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. There are storage spaces located around the cabin. There's one below the radio that might hold a mobile phone, and the glove box is also reasonable. The aircon is manual, it's easy to use and not controlled through the touchscreen unlike some rivals. Down lower you'll find a USB port and a 12-volt socket. In front of the gear stick there are buttons for traction control and start-stop. You'll also find a manual handbrake, which is not something that will be around in new cars for much longer. The interior of the new Yaris has a traditional Toyota feel to it, and it's not as modern as some rivals, but for many buyers this interior will be exactly what they are looking for, as it's easy to use, logically laid out, and everything feels well put together. In Ireland the Yaris starts at €18,840, with this Luna spec starting at €19,750. There will also be a higher Luna Sport trim set to be available soon. Bear in mind that these are Irish prices and will vary in other European markets. There's also a 1.5 petrol and a 1.5 hybrid on the way very soon. From behind the wheel you get the aid of Toyota's safety sense, which has the likes of adaptive cruise, lane keeping assist and speed sign recognition, and it's standard across the Yaris range. The steering wheel is a nice size, it's leather wrapped, and in terms of driving, for a Super Mini the Yaris drives reasonably well. The suspension is a little bit firm, but it's still a comfortable car, and while it may have sporty looks, it's not as fun to drive as a Fiesta, but the steering is sharper than you might expect. At lower speeds, the steering is light enough to allow the Yaris to be easy to park and easy to manoeuvre in town. This 1 litre only has 72 brake horsepower. If you want more power, the hybrid version due next month will tick that box. The hybrid should prove to be very efficient, and Toyota know what they are doing when it comes to hybrids. This 1 litre petrol should return around 5.6 litres per 100 kilometres, so make no mistake, this car is still economical. It may not be a hybrid, but it will still return decent fuel economy. Town and city driving is where it will be most at home. Regardless of what engine you go for, reliability won't be an issue, as Toyotas are known for being dependable. And with more trims and engines arriving before the year is out, Toyota Super Mini isn't the most exciting car on the market, but it's certainly more stylish than the outgoing Yaris, and as with all Toyotas, it's pretty much a given that ownership should be a trouble-free experience. The Yaris then is worth considering alongside rivals like the Ford Fiesta, Volkswagen Polo, Seat Ibiza and Renault Clio. If you enjoyed this look at the new Toyota Yaris, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss our test drives of the latest new cars on the market. Thanks very much for watching Deck of Cars.